The third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The rain has subsided, but the impacts of the climate disaster in our province continue. The Coquihalla has been washed away in multiple sections. Highway 7, Highway 1, Highway 99, Highway 3 have all been impacted. The Malahat remains impacted. They've either been flooded, buried in slides, or washed away. People are working around the clock to get the highways and roads cleared, to save people who are trapped, and to stop the water from rising catastrophically in the Fraser Valley. And to the emergency workers, highway maintenance crews, municipal workers, and Good Samaritans, we say thank you. Honourable Speaker, I've been reading The Future of Atmospheric Rivers and Actions to Reduce Impacts of British Columbians, a project delivered in partnership with the BC Ministry of Environment, Pacific Institute for Climate Solutions, and Pacific Climate Impacts Consortium in 2014. It identifies that atmospheric rivers will be more frequent and more extreme, particularly in coastal British Columbia, and that the following impacts were identified as greatest concern: mortality, isolation of communities, and loss of critical infrastructure. 3 of the recommendations from the report are about infrastructure: to develop maps of critical infrastructure, assess the vulnerability of critical infrastructure, and relocate critical infrastructure where needed. My questions for you, Honourable Speaker, is to the Minister of Transportation. What work has his ministry done in the past 2 years to assess the state of critical infrastructure in BC and to pinpoint the potential fault lines of our highways and roads?
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And if I could pick up where she began, praising the efforts of British Columbians who have opened their doors and opened their hearts to one another, seeing each other in very difficult circumstances, flooded out of their communities, and put on a Herculean effort to make people welcome and to shelter in place. Our thanks go to every British Columbian who has been part of that effort. There are thousands of volunteers that are engaged right now in doing that. There are men and women who have worked in heavy rescue teams, who are working on road maintenance contractor crews that are working to restore rail and highway connectivity, and it's our job as the government to coordinate every resource possible. Emergency response, coordination with the federal government, working with engineers, with contractors and others to restore connectivity, because right now, as the member knows, the Lower Mainland and the interior and north of the province are severed through our highway systems. I am pleased to have been able to provide an update to the province, along with the Premier and the Minister of the Solicitor General and the Minister of Agriculture earlier, some news that does give a timeline, which everybody is eager to have, about when that connectivity might be restored. And we are looking, and hopefully we'll have an update for the member and all members in the House later today on Highway 7, finally getting a connection from Agassiz to Hope. Highway 3, the work is in earnest to have an interior route that will connect the Lower Mainland of British Columbia. Highway 99, work is progressing, and we will have an update by the end of today on what the projected opening date is on that highway. And of course, as she mentioned, the Highway 1 Malahat is functioning. It's supported now by additional ferry service that is going from Swartz Bay to Duke Point to make sure that essential goods and services and travel can happen, and that the South Island is connected to the Mid and North Island. The issue around resiliency of infrastructure is one that our government has worked for the past 4 years since forming government. We worked with her and her caucus in the previous mandate to increase the budget and resources for strengthened road networks, to shift towards sustainable transportation topics. It's a $7.6 billion infrastructure budget today. And as I've said to the member earlier, we will spare no expense and dedicate every resource possible to rebuild and recover the infrastructure that British Columbians built. They are eager to work with our government to rebuild the BC that they built in the first place, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the third party supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his response. It was about 90% about the reactive response, and what I was asking about was proactive work that has been done in response to multiple reports that we have had over decades about the impacts of climate change. The Port of Vancouver has been cut off from the rest of the province. We're already seeing the impacts of food shortages, panic buying in grocery stores, gas shortages. Videos and photos from last night show the desperation and concern of British Columbians in being able to feed their families. There's a line of people wrapped around a Fraser Valley Walmart 3 times over. Shelves in Prince Rupert, Kamloops, and even Victoria are empty. And Gurdwaras in Surrey have rented helicopters to fly food to those stranded in Hope. Sumas Perry is flooded near catastrophic levels. According to the local government, the Fraser Valley produces 50% of this province's dairy, eggs, and chicken, and tragically, many livestock will not have survived. This is devastating for farmers and for this province, and people need to hear from this government what concrete steps are being taken to ensure that there will be food available in the weeks and months ahead. My question, Honourable Speaker, is to the Minister of Agriculture. What are the contingencies for our supply chains of food across BC, and how has the ministry prepared for events like this?
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for this very, very important question. This is a devastating time for farmers in BC, especially those in the Fraser Valley. We have spent days communicating with hundreds of stakeholders around the situation, and I can tell the member that as we reach people, because this is still playing out, they're glad to hear from us. They know we have their back, but when we ask them what we can do in the immediacy, they're lost for an idea because it's still happening. As things change, especially over the last 12 hours, we've seen some areas dry out, but there's some areas that are under threat. And the areas that are under threat include thousands of poultry in barns, more dairy cows, all different types of animals that are trapped in barns. They are injured. They are getting sick because they've been in cold waters. And we see the desperation of farmers trying to save their livestock, trying to move them from one barn to another. And the efforts are heroic, and I can't even express how thankful I am that we have such a resilient agriculture community. But to the member's question, what are we doing to make sure we have a resilient food supply? My ministry the members across the way are thinking I'm taking too long to talk about a disaster that's unfolding in the province of British Columbia.
Let's listen to. Continue, Minister.
Thank you. The members might be interested to know the stories of the farmers. It's playing out right now. Right now.
Order. Members. Order. Conclude, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My ministry works every day on the issue of resiliency and sustainability when it comes to our agriculture food system in BC. I can tell the member that there is a lot of enthusiastic shopping that's going on. We wish that people would be measured in their purchases. It's not necessarily about the fact that we're going to run out of food. We are rejigging ways to distribute it right now. We're working with suppliers, and we will be able to do that. We won't run out of food as a province. This province is a strong supporter of supply management, Mr. Speaker, and we know that because of our national producers, where we are not able to produce, other provinces will help us out until we get back on our feet.
Minister.